All right, here we go. Recording in progress. Hey, hey, hey. This is Deeva Gordon with the Deeva Show. We have a very special guest with us today. You know, the Deeva Show is about entertainment, inspiration, and keeping it 100. So I think today is more so about inspiration and keeping it 100. It's a lot of both, you know. Um, I have with me today Miss DNita Hamilton, who has been a very, how do I say, very inspirational person. And when I met you, you were going through a difficult situation.
Yes, ma'am.
So today, she's going to share with us, you know, some things that happened and took place. And yeah, we're going to talk about it because while we were off screen before we started, you know, we started talking about things, and I realized I had to stop because it was going to actually go into
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
So, as I said, you know, I met you about 5 years ago. You can walk at
Yes.
everything. I got it, English. About 5 years ago, and it was at a difficult time in your life.
Yes.
You had some things that took place, and I was saying just a moment ago, I was like, wow, it's been 5 years.
Right.
Like,
Right.
really, 5 years. I didn't realize how much time passed. And the thing about it is, I find a lot of people are having that same conversation because of COVID, how COVID had
Yeah.
everyone, you know, kind of
Everything.
on lockdown. You
Yeah.
know, nobody could go anywhere. But you had a different experience of lockdown
Yes.
where, you know, like you said, you didn't have a 2021,
No.
you know?
That's
So
what I.
take us from the beginning of what happened.
Well, I was working as a correctional officer in Southwoods, New Jersey. Southwoods is the prison. It was in
Mhm.
Bridgeton, New Jersey, and it was just on a regular day. I was going to work, and as I passed the car legally, I went past one car, and then I went to pass another car still legally, and this car decided to speed up. So I had to make a decision. Am I going to speed up? Am I going to slow down? But we're pretty much parallel to each other. So I sped up. And when I sped up, I looked up and it was a car that came and we had a head on collision. And that's
Wow.
where that moment, they say 7 seconds of your life can change. And in that moment, my life changed. When I woke up, I was hanging outside the car. The top of my body was hanging outside the passenger side seat, and my legs were dangling inside the car still. But at this time, I didn't realize that all this was going on, because in my head, all I'm saying is, I have to get to work. I have to get to work. What are we? What is everyone doing? Can y'all please speed up y'all process as if it's there, as if it's them, but it's me. I'm the person that couldn't get up, and
I can't even begin to imagine. And just to think, you didn't even realize the severity of what had just took place in your mindset. It was like, okay, this has happened now. Let's get moving. I got to get to work.
that's all I kept saying is I got to get to work. I actually thought it was a fender bender. I did think that me and the car did hit, but I figured I swerved it quick enough that it just maybe hit the front of my bumper or something like that. And I'm just thinking like, oh, I got to get my car fixed. Oh, I got to get my car fixed. Not knowing the car was total, the engine and everything was collapsed inside the driver's side seat. But this is such a God-given story, because the fact that that was all crushed inside the driver's side seat, I was hanging out the passenger side. So if my body, and I didn't have a seatbelt on, so
Wow.
it's almost like it was a fortunate thing, because if not, it would have crushed my body. So
Wow.
I got ejected on the passenger side from being on the driver's side, and everything was crashed into the driver's side seat. So my life was saved. God saved me. This whole story is just, it's so him. It's so him. It's so real. Like some things I can't even explain because it's higher than me. It's bigger than me. And I still can't explain it.
Yes. Yes. And that's when, how do I say it? That's when you know you have God in you. When you
Yes.
recognize what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? When you recognize what he's doing, because some people be like, oh, you lucky.
Yeah, I wasn't lucky. I never said lucky. Everybody asked me what happened. Everything okay. I'm blessed because luck had nothing to do with it.
There you go.
And
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm good. I was just about to
So
say.
go ahead, go ahead,
Go
go ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. No, I'm fine.
So, all right, let's take it back just a moment. And the only reason why I'm taking it back is because so many so many of us, I just went through it this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So many of us have in that mindset, most definitely, when they're in motion and they have to get to work. You have to punch that clock. For instance, because I do a lot of part-time jobs and stuff like that. So I did a shift at, at Amazon. So I know with if anybody has worked there, I know that if I clock after 5 minutes after the time I'm supposed to be in there, I'm gonna get points.
Right.
So what am I doing? I'm putting the pedal to the metal. The only thing that's on my mind is getting there. So a lot of us are so systematic
Just
in trying to get there. Just,
yeah.
that will. It's that will. And with what you went through, like you said, you was in the midst of it and you was still thinking
About life,
I
about
gotta
work,
get the work. Yeah.
money. I got to get to the money. And now it was like, okay, my car is damaged. Now I'm going to have to work overtime. I got to get to the money. And it was so much deeper than the car because not knowing my lower body was damaged. And I didn't
So
even.
when did you start to realize, wait a minute?
Well, after the ambulance and everything came, I remember my head being down in the dirt and looking up, and I'm hearing all these sirens, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is ridiculous. And then they came over there and they put me on a stretcher, and they said, have you ever been in a helicopter? I'm like, no. They was like, well, we're about to helicopter you to Christiana Hospital. And I'm like, okay. I'm still conscious. I'm talking to them just like this. I'm talking to them, but I'm, stretched out.
Mm-hmm.
And we get in a helicopter and I can just hear everything, the noises and everything. And then now they're sitting there asking me questions. Well, what's today? When's your birthday? What's your name? What's the president? Like, and this is the things that you see on movies. So now my mind is starting to like roll, like, whoa, what's going on? Like, pause, like, is everything okay? And they're like, yeah, everything's okay. I'm like, yeah, am I about to die? I'm like, hold on, am I about to die? What is going on? And they're like, no, ma'am, you're not about to die, but your legs are damaged pretty bad. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so I'm not about to die. Like I had to reiterate because now they're doing, and I'm seeing all these things around me. I just feel so smothered. Like I just felt like everything was closing in on me. And then
Right.
I remember the last thing I said, I have a twin sister. And the last thing I said was, whatever you do, don't let me die. I was like, I have a twin and she can't make it without me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just got in a comfortable state, and that's when I blacked out. And that was on a Thursday, October 26th. And that's the last thing I remember. At 11:24, the accident happened. I woke
Wow.
up, I think it was about Friday, and I wasn't really into it. I was like pretty much out of it. But that was the moment in that accident, and that was it. That like changed my life. And when I woke up, when I did wake up and realize that they were saying my legs were damaged. It was like, your legs are damaged. But the way our mind works, I remember looking, well, when I came to, so we
Okay.
fast came to a little bit. I remember looking under the covers, but I see my legs there and I see my legs straight, but it has rods and halos and pins. It just looked ridiculous. And I'm like, they're like, your legs are damaged. I'm like, well, they can't be. I'm looking at my legs right here. But I remember them feeling so heavy. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, they're like, so the doctor's like talking to my parents and my parents in the room and he's talking, but I'm still not really there. And
Right.
I'm listening to him talking. He's using these big terms. And it didn't mean anything to me because I just felt like I was like, excuse me, sir. Am I gonna walk again? Because that was my like I'm just things are coming too. And he was like, excuse me. I was like, am I gonna walk again? And he was like, yeah. He's like, you'll be able to walk again. I was like, okay, thank you. I was like, if you do your job, I'll do mine. And he was like,
Amen.
okay. And he never gave up on me. I ended up having 32 surgeries, continual. I had infections in my legs.
Wow.
He had to go back and fix things and replace things. And he came up with something different because a whole year I was having surgeries and I had an infection as well. And he's trying to put my legs back together. So while he's doing that, I kept having these setbacks, but I kept going. And then he came up with your bone is not growing the way I want. So this is what I'm going to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take all the bone out your leg because he was his whole thing was saving my leg, saving my bones. He wanted to save everything. So it just wasn't going the way he felt it should have went. So he said, what I'm
Okay.
going to do is take all the bone out your leg and I'm going to replace it with a long rod. It's called a distal femur replacement. And we're going to see how that works. And I'm like, okay. He was like, and this is the last resort. Like, if this doesn't work, it's pretty much you have no legs. So at this time, I was about 33. And I'm like, let's go for it. Like, I'm going to walk. I'm 33. I'm ready. I'm trying to walk. I'm trying to get back to life itself.
Right.
So he did it. And it came out a success. So then he said, you know what? We're going to do the other leg. And he replaced both of my legs with metal pieces. I still have the skin and everything, but I just have no bone from my hips down. Is a
Okay.
prosthetic knee, femur
Mhm.
is metal, prosthetic knee, tibia is just a long piece of metal, like prosthetic, but it's just on the inside. So if I'm looking at my legs are not cut off. I can still see. I still have some
See,
form.
can I finish? You just
I
jumped
still
up
have
to get
some
in the
form.
camera. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
No, it's okay. I still have some form of normalcy, so to
Hmm.
say. So
Well,
it was a blessing. He was a blessing. He was a blessing.
listen, I'm going to say this. I know when we first met, I believe you were in a wheelchair.
Yes, I was. Yes,
You
I
were in a
was.
wheelchair, right?
Yes.
So I did notice while we were setting up, right? While we were setting up and get ready to start, you sitting there on some chills. You was like, wait a minute, let me open this so I can get some light and
And
moving
I'm
and
moving.
snapping. And I'm like, yes,
Yes.
yes. That's such a blessing. And I know that it's like it's you can tell somebody how
Mhm.
thankful you are, but that feeling going
Yes.
from where you were to where you are now, I'm almost sure that it would be difficult to just put it into words.
Yes. It is. It is.
That was a long journey, a
It's
long journey, and we're going to get into it even deeper because that journey came with more turmoil on
yes.
top of it.
Yeah.
So you had to not only be strong to maintain a certain amount, of how do I say, trust
Yeah. Okay.
for your doctor, even though different things was happening, like you said, the infection, and then he was trying something new, but you also had a certain amount of stress
Yes.
on your mind
Yes.
while you're still trying to heal.
Yes. So on top of that, when I finally got out of rehab in 2018, February, I got a call from the state troopers stating that they needed me come down to the station and make a statement because someone was injured and someone passed away. So I went down and I made a statement, and they arrested me. I told my story and they arrested me on the spot. That I never knew was going to happen. Because to me, I still knew it was an accident. There was no drugs, there was no alcohol. They checked all that. I was on my way to work. It was an accident. So to go down there and get that and do that statement and then to get locked up, it was just mind blowing. However, they did end up letting me go, but I had to get fingerprinted. I had to wait for a little bit. And at this time, I was still in my wheelchair. So they let me go on my way. And about 2 months later, people are blowing my phone up because I got indicted. So I'm like, wait, what? I got indicted. So now this is when court hits. I have to get a lawyer because they saying I was looking at 5 years prison time. On top of me trying to get myself together and mentally, physically, everything. Then I get that phone. Oh, by the way, somebody passed away in your situation. You're going to jail. And I'm like, no,
I can't even imagine.
No, it was so scary. It was so stressful. I can't.
I remember the conversation, that I remember the conversation that we had,
Mm-hmm.
and I know one of your major concerns was the fact that you're still going through these surgeries, and
Yes.
I don't think people realize, nor do they understand, that when you go to prison, you will not receive any type of um, you'll receive medical treatment, but
They
you're
give
going
you
to
adequate.
receive.
That was the word they kept using. Adequate. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Oh, okay. But mind you, I worked in a prison, so I knew how they were. I know how they were treating inmates. Not me, but I knew how inmates were treated. I knew how the system worked. So for me, after the transform from a CO to an inmate, for one, that was going to be a scary thing because I went to academy with some of these people. Like, it was not only scary, embarrassing, there's a lot of mixed feelings, pertaining to that.
Right.
But throughout that time, I was fighting, and the family was upset, and I could totally understand. But I knew in my heart that it was an accident. Like, there was no malice behind it. There was nothing. And I let them know, if you would have met me a day before, probably walking the mall, you guys would love me because that's the type of person I am. But this accident doesn't define me. This is
Right.
just what happened. This is not me. This is not who I am. We just end up connecting at the wrong time of life. But
Yeah.
they fought, hard to put me in prison, and they succeeded. So after about 3 years, 2 years of fighting, I end up going to court on November 1st, 2000, 2000, and they took me back. We didn't know what we were going to do, and they took me back. And it was just a crazy thing because at this time I just got a recent surgery, and we asked the judge, like, can we just get another week because I wanted to make sure my leg was okay and everything. And she said no. She asked the family, they said no. Everybody said no. So I'm like, okay. 3 days in the county jail, my leg gets infected.
I'm sure. And that was around COVID too, right?
Yes. Yes. This was the beginning of COVID, when it was kind of trickling over here in the US. So I got that infection in my leg. And the only reason why they end up even checking is because, being that I was going through these surgeries and knowing what the infection looked like and just knew that it wasn't healing right, I said something to the doctor at the prison, and he was like they said, adequate. But I was like, well, can you at least give me this? Does it cost to get a culture? I just want to get a culture and let's see what this leg looks like, because to me it doesn't look good. And I know I've been through this. I'm going through this for 2 years now. Just can't, it doesn't cost for that. So he gave me a culture. It came back 3 days later. You have an infection. They rushed me to the hospital. They wanted me out their hands, as we told them. But if the judge just would have waited, like we said, just to get everything checked, just to make sure everything is okay, this possibly might not have happened. But you're sending me to prison that's dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Any bacteria that you can name in there, and I have this wound that's clearly trying to heal, and you still send me to prison. You couldn't wait another 4 or 5 days after we didn't wait it. I mean, I get it, because we did wait for about 3 years for them to put me under. They probably didn't want to wait another minute, but I mean, I guess on my end, I'm looking at it as my health. On their end, they're looking at it as, I don't care. My father, or my brother, or my son, or whoever he was to the family, he's passed away. So why would we care about your legs? Why do we care about your health? And I always prayed about that for them, because I didn't want them to be bitter. I prayed for them all the time.
And the thing is, I guess in some instances, it is hard for people not to be.
Yes, of course.
It is hard for them not to be. But at the same time, be angry at the situation. Like you said, be angry at the situation, but not necessarily the person, because things happen, accidents happen, and I get it. Some people that may be watching this be like, yeah, well, this happened and it caused this and it caused that. But at the same time, you didn't set out to do that. You know what I mean? It wasn't a drag race.
No.
And you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a drag race where you lost control or anything like that. It's one of those things. And honestly,
actually, it was someone being rude and speeding up. It was actually one of those, like somebody just being a jerk and like, oh, I'm not letting you pass. Why? This is what you caused this, to be honest.
People do that all the time.
All the time. They caused this. Now I'm, for lack of better words, handicapped. Someone's passed away and someone's hurt pretty bad. All because you didn't want to let me over.
And like you said, and I said, and it happens every single day. Just real quick. It happened the other day. I'm getting on 95. 95 has a lot of construction and stuff going on. And where you get on at Cotman Avenue, they have a lot of cones that leads into where you merge into traffic. So generally it's supposed to be car, merge, car, merge, car, merge. It's how, just so to be smooth. So I'm, waiting for my chance to merge, and everybody, like, I'm getting closer and closer because I got people behind me, and I'm getting closer and closer where I can't go anywhere. And it was just like tightening up. I was like, I don't understand.
Because everybody's always in a rush or something, or just wants extra. If everybody just does their own little thing and be patient, or just, one at a time, a lot of things would be different. But it's always like, no, you're not doing this. No, this is not letting you in.
Right. As soon as they see you even put your turn signal on, it's like,
like, no, I'm standing firm. I'm standing on this. You're not getting in here. Right.
Yeah, it's like, come on. You know what I mean? We all trying to get somewhere.
Right.
So take us to the whole thing when you found out that they were going to release you because of the culture that you had and the infection. So is that when they released you, period, or is that when they sent you back to the physician for him to check the infection so you can get the proper care you were supposed to get?
So I was in the hospital, and I was still in the county, so I still had the county correctional officers there. But in the middle of the night, they changed from county to state because the county didn't want that on them, me having an infection while I was in their presence. So the state figured, we'll take over, we can take care of her. So I'm still in the hospital under lockdown, and the state's in there, and they figured that we could take care of her. So then they send me to the prison now. At this point, I was in jail, but now I'm sent upstate to prison at the Mahan, and they're looking at my leg, and they finally get the files, they said it's about 600 pages long, talking about my surgeries and everything that went on. But they were like, they wanted me in there, and they're just figuring like, we're going to take care of her. They realized now my leg is busted open. It's oozing out.
Oof.
The prison doctor looked at it and was now talking to her people pretty much like something isn't right. Their hospitals that's incorporated with them, they didn't want me. They denied me. 2 hospitals that was with the prison, they denied me. They was like, I don't know what's going on with her legs or where she's from, but take her back to where she was. We don't want any parts of this. So nobody wanted parts of my body. So November 21st, they finally decided they were going to release me. So they released me, and my parents came and got me from Camden and Camden Cooper Hospital, and they released me from there. And I just went straight to Delaware to my doctor. And when I spoke with him, he was telling me like, we were trying to get you here for like the last 3 weeks. So hearing what he's saying and hearing what they were telling me was 2 different stories. And I believe my doctor, but they didn't. I guess, you know, when you're in the system, they're going to do everything they can to keep you. But right. I was such a risk, and they didn't want to take care of that they released, because they were trying, actually the doctor there was trying to cut my leg off when I was.
Well, see, and I was going to ask you that, because
cut my leg off. And I said, I worked too hard for this. I wasn't as far as I am now, but at this time I'm like, well, I knew that there was no other options because I knew both of my legs were metal. And then I got that infection in prison. So in my head, I'm like, I'm about to get my leg cut off, but I was trying to think positive. I'm not trying to put that in the universe. And so I tried to think positive, but then he came to me like, yeah, we're going to cut your leg off. I'm like, I've been in this hospital for a week. And if I had an infection in my leg, it's been in my leg. And you're just now coming to me now telling me how bad this infection is. Why a week later? It's 7 days later. And you're coming to me, and now you're talking about cutting my leg off. Where was you at last week when maybe we wasn't in this bad of a situation? You're not cutting my leg off. Somebody do something. I need to speak to my parents. I didn't care if I was grown or not. I need to speak to somebody. Like, somebody need to contact somebody. Contact my lawyer. You're not cutting my leg off. You're not cutting my leg off.
Right.
And the judge released me. So then I went to Delaware, and I had to stay in that. But now I'm released, so I'm not under any court system. I'm not under anything. I am a free woman, free at last.
Amen.
And
amen.
Yes, amen to that. And I was in the hospital all the way past Christmas, and this was still 2000. I was in the hospital, and I came home like a couple of days after Christmas. And then what happened? Yeah, this was 2020. I'm sorry. And I came home, but then I had to go back to court February. No, this was 19. Now that was 19. I apologize. That was 19. So then now the new year came. I bring on the new year as a free woman.
Amen.
Now February 2020 hits, and I had to go to court because they were like, okay, you got out, you got your leg clean, you got some rehab, you're going back under. We're locking you back up. So we go back to the court, and they didn't end up letting me stay out a little longer. They was like, okay, 6 weeks, and then come back and turn yourself in. But COVID hit, so everything was locked down. They wasn't letting people in prison, out of prison. It was like a lot going on. So I was home just going through different court sessions, and they just kept pushing it off the whole time in 2020, just pushing it off. And then in October 2020, they decided, you're going back to prison. Like, we don't care. Yes, we know it's COVID. Yes, we know that you have infection. Well, your infection is in your body, and you're taking antibiotics, and we know like your risk, and we know. We don't care. That's how I take it. So yeah, you're going back under. And so they decided to lock me up. I had to go back November 22nd, 2020. But when I went to turn myself in, someone near me had COVID. So I went to take a COVID test and come to find out I had COVID. So
Wow.
they sent them the paperwork and they were like, no, you can't come. So they fast forwarded. Now it was December 12th. They was like, turn yourself in. And I've turned myself in every time they told me to come. I came. I turned myself in December 12th, 2020. I had a fever of 101. The prison turned me back around. No, you're not coming in here. You was that girl that was in here last time with the wheelchair. Yeah, we had problems with you. That's why they got me out of there anyway. That's why the county got me out of there. They didn't want no parts of me. That's why they don't want no parts. They already seen me. They remember my face. We don't need you here. No, sent me home. So then January 8th, now 2021 hit. And the judge had a letter stating she's not going to sit at the county. We're going to have her pending charge to send her straight up state. Like they're taking her. And I went there and they weren't taking people. And then I got home and then the county called me back on the phone, was like, DNita Hamilton, where you at? I'm like, I'm home. I'm like, what's wrong? They was like, report back. I was like, no, I'm already home. I'm already home. Like, you're going to have to figure something else out. Report back. We need you back here. So we took 40 minutes back and went back to the prison to turn myself in, and that was it.
Wow.
It was like a back and forth. I hope you kept up.
You have such a miraculous story. I mean, no, listen, many, because you abided, you stayed under authority, staying under the authority of God. You stayed under the authority and you did what they told you to do.
Yes.
But I'm going to tell you, and I know it's many, like, you let me out. Oh, my name changing.
That's what a lot of people said, like, why did you go back? Like, why did you go back? I'm like, because I always had this faith, like, once I get in there, like the way I got out the last time, I'm like, I'm not staying there long. I'm like, I'll be out. I'm like, don't even trip, y'all. I'll be out. Watch this. I'll be out. It wasn't even cocky. I was just confident because me and my family, we were praying warriors. Like, we had prayer lines and we fast and we prayed and we just believed that God was just going to do what he was going to do. And everything that I prayed for, I was just saying, God, whatever your will is, your way. I'm not going to fight it. I don't know what your will is about to be, but whatever you're about to send me through, I know I'll be okay. And that's it. And I just had to keep that mentality. I couldn't go back on my words like, wait, God, I didn't say I wanted to be in prison. No, I said your will is your way. So I had to let go and literally let God, because I could not have focused. If I didn't have God, I wouldn't have been as stable as I was. It was all him, by all means.
Listen, I can't say enough of how much courage and strength that it had to take to get through all of it, because it's one thing that you were in the condition that you were in when you woke up.
Mm-hmm.
To then have to go through so many surgeries and then have to have your bones removed and replaced. And this is, something, and he's telling you it's your last resort. And I know in your mind it's like you said, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to say no, you know what I mean? You don't
want
to say no.
I'm still early 30s. I'm like, come on, whatever we're going to do, let's get it. I'll think about whatever we need to do later. I want to walk. And that's what my mindset was.
And then with the going back and forth to prison, and like you said, it's every germ that you can imagine in prison. People don't understand how bad
it's
very
bad.
They want the prisoners to be clean because they, the quarantine before they go in the back and all, and the general pop and all of that. They want them to be clean, but you don't provide them with a clean environment. It's crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't make sense. But, outside of the fact that you were dealing with all of that and going into prison, how could I say, you weren't in the cell by yourself, correct?
No, no. When I first got to prison, my dad he willed me in to the county, and the reason why I say he willed me in because it's more to that part after that. So he
Okay.
rolled me in, and I got to the prison, and they had me in the infirmary. So I was in there by myself for about 2 weeks, and then they decided they were going to classify me and put me in general population. So they put me in general population, and that's where I stayed. And I was in there with about 8 other women in a pod. So it was 2 people, 2 people, 2 people, 2 people, and it was a wall that like divided us, but we're still in like one pod. And so
Hmm.
yeah, I never had I always had a roommate. I was never by myself. So
And I know that had to be difficult also because you couldn't do and move around,
no. And
you
it was
know.
as big as this. They have lockers. Lockers is this big, and that's where you can put your clothes and your stuff, everything. I I'm not. It sounds really bougie, like it was almost like my life outside of here is like I'm pretty much rich. Like it was like from like riches to rags almost. Like I never lived like this. Like my parents worked, I worked when I got older. Like I like to live a nice life, so I worked for what I wanted. So going from here to now putting me here, it was like the lowest part of my life. Like I've never lived like this. Like how do I even survive? Like when they say survival skills kick in, they kicked in. I went from being DNita to I had to get into I went from a officer to having to get into the mindset of an inmate, because if not, I wouldn't have survived. And I didn't even realize my mind was spinning and transforming and turning into an inmate until I actually was released. But I turned it like I had to survive. So I did. I turned into an inmate mentality, which is I would have never thought, because the whole time I'm in there, I'm like, I'm not an inmate. Like I don't care. Like no, I'm not. So I'm fine. I'm fine. Like it was just so I'm not y'all. I'm not y'all, but I am in here with y'all. So I clearly I'm y'all.
Listen, and well, one thing I'm going to say, and that's why I don't understand honestly how some people use prison as a revolving door. How do you just keep going back and keep going back?
I
Um,
don't know.
I don't get it. But the other part of that is just like you said, you were not where the mentality was
Mm-hmm.
initially.
Mm-hmm.
Prison changes you.
Yes. Yes.
Now, it changes you, but it doesn't, it's not a permanent change. It's
Mm-mm.
about, like you said, it's about survival.
Bible.
You don't have certain conversations in
Mm-hmm.
there. Certain
Mm-mm.
topics are just off
Just not
limits,
talked about. You don't.
you
You
know?
don't ask
And
nobody what you in here for. You don't ask nobody how many years you have. It's just unspoken rules. You just don't. You don't let anybody know your business. But I knew all
right,
this as an officer. So just
right.
working in the prison system. So now just going from that to that, I kind of just tried to remember everything I learned from the academy, and when I had the experience of working in the prison to when I end up being an inmate. But
And listen, and you learn quickly.
very quickly.
I'm just going to say, been there, done that. You learn quickly.
Yes, you do.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and then that's all I'm going to say. This is a Diva show. So that's all I'm going to say. But you learn quickly what to do, what not to
Yeah.
do,
Yes.
who to deal with, and who not to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's definitely about survival. Um, I know they have a show out called 60 Days In.
That's funny because a couple people asked me. It was like, it's something about you. It's Are you on this show 60 Days In? I don't know if I gave off a aura of that I was a cop or what, but I just knew. I said, God, please get me out of here. But I'm like, no, I'm not in 60 days in. Like, that's not, no, like, no, that's not. I'm not.
Right?
Like,
Yeah. And because, God forbid,
if they
you
would have
know,
found out, their mentality might have been different towards me.
and most definitely, I've watched that show quite a few times, and exactly what you're saying, about the survival and adapting and learning your environment. It's like you don't get settled in, but you recognize certain things, like, after maybe that second or third night, it's like, okay, all
Mm-hmm.
right, I can do this. I got to do this.
Yeah.
Let me stop thinking about the outside
Yeah.
and recognize my inside and where
Yeah.
I'm at right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And
Definitely.
and 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 start to deal with that, because the sooner that you deal with that and recognize where you are and not separate yourself from everybody, because you still outside,
Yes.
if that
Yes.
makes sense. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Perfect.
So it's
Yeah.
like you start to say, okay, I need to set this up over here,
Mm-hmm.
get my tray, do what I
Yup.
need to do with my tray, organize my stuff that's dirty, that's clean, what I
Yup.
need to do, like the whole nine. And it's not, some people think it's that, oh, you just become a, jailhouse. It's not that. It's that if you don't, you're gonna be up here in your head outside, and
And
you
it's
ain't
gonna make it that much
outside.
harder. It makes that
Right.
time harder.
That's what happens when, people are in there depressed,
Yeah.
because it is an upsetting thing. However, you know, if you recognize where you at, what you got to go through, what you got to do, you just buckle down and you just do what you got to do
Right.
until you can
Until
do something
time
else.
comes up. Right.
Exactly. So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
since you have been released or anything, you have not, hopefully and prayerfully not, but you have not heard anything from the family.
No, a lot of people have asked me that. I haven't heard anything from that family.
Okay. Okay.
We
I
don't.
mean,
I guess we don't. We're not supposed to contact each other or anything. But I mean, I always feel like I'm going to run into them maybe someday. And I guess we'll see how that is if that ever happens. I mean, we live in two different states. They were from Delaware, and I'm from New Jersey. So I mean, but the world is so small. Sometimes things happen. You can run into them anywhere. You never know.
this
So
is true. This is true. So tell me this. Now that you are free, what have you been up to? What have you been up to? What has Miss DeNita been doing? And I know you stated that you've been doing some very inspirational things and trying to pass it on. So what have you been up to?
so I have a little routine, everything, and which happened when I was in prison. I started working my legs out by myself because they cut my therapy off. So I worked out, and that's why I said, listen to this part, because I got wheeled in to prison. When
Right, right, right.
my twin came and picked me up, I was walking out with a roller. So them
I know
seeing that
that's right.
was like, whoa, what did you do? I just worked out every day. So I got into a routine and I work out, and I'm still in the routine now. So I work out. I got different things coming up, like a show, an empowerment show that I'm going to be speaking there. I have different podcasts with churches and ministries that I'll be speaking to upcoming in the fall when high school opens. I'm going to be speaking to kids. So I'm just going to just pretty much try to just spread my word and positivity and energy, and just showing people about strength and just pushing yourself and motivation and just being who I am, because I wasn't never a person that anybody would have thought that went to prison. People were like, when you know someone, like I was the last person to ever anybody would think to go to prison. But now that I did that, now I want to show people like, okay, look, I did it, and I was like this, and I had these surgeries, and I had this setback, and I went to prison. Now I'm out. Now I'm still trying to learn how to walk. I'm still trying to gain my independence. I'm going to just keep pushing and showing forth that like you can do it. As cliche as it sounds, like now that I'm in that, it's like, no, really, like you can do it. So I think that's really like my purpose. I found that in prison. Like my purpose is to talk and just to show people that like you can do it and give you that knowledge and that strength and motivation and showing you that dedication and don't give up. Don't give up, don't give in. Like mistakes
Exactly.
happen, things happen. It doesn't define you. It was a moment. Okay, you had a bad day, get up. The next day, get up. Because don't let that bad day take you down. We're not gonna get two bad days. You get one, get yourself up the next day, you move. And if you have another one, that's okay. Get yourself up. But we're not doing two consecutive bad days because two turn into four, four turn into eight, and then so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
we're just gonna try to continue to keep moving every day.
You
Whether
know, and one of the things that I often say to people is there's somebody that wish they had your problems,
yup,
you know,
yup,
because, for instance, I mean, sometimes I get stressed out because I do so much and, I set up appointments, I set up dates and I do a lot of different things and I'm responsible for quite a bit. And sometimes it can weigh me down. Sometimes
mm-hmm,
it can weigh me down financially and stuff because I produce a lot of my own stuff and things like that. And sometimes I just have to stop
mm-hmm,
because I say, well, I got to get this, and I wish I had that, and dang, I don't have this, and then I sit and I'm like, but I have a roof over my head.
yes,
I'm able to get around. I have food. I can choose what I want to eat. You
right,
know what I mean?
right,
Somebody wish they could choose what they want to eat.
right,
Somebody wish they had a roof over their head.
right,
You know what I mean? Somebody wish that they could get around. So it's like too many times people think about what they don't have and don't recognize what they do.
right,
And just, like you said, just keep pushing every day, just keep pushing to do better, keep pushing to be better. You know
right.
what I mean? And
It's okay to have your days. It's okay to have your. I
yeah.
don't call them bad days. I call them challenging days, because it's never a bad day. You wake up. You wake up. It's not a bad day. They're called challenging days. So on that challenging day, you have it. That's okay. Now we're going to get that day out the way. Wake up tomorrow with a better attitude. We all have them. It's
Oh my
all.
goodness. Yes. Yes. We listen, we're all human. And like just like you said, you woke up. Some people didn't get to wake up. You know what I mean?
It's bad
And I
about waking
always
up. You
listen, I
blessed.
always say any day I'm on this side of the dirt, I am okay. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
So I want to thank you for coming on the
Okay.
and I know you said you're going to be doing some motivational speaking. I am so thankful that you're going to be speaking to our youth as well because they need us.
Yes.
They need us something awful, So I thank you for wanting to be an inspiration to others. I'm glad that your story turned out the way that it did on a very positive note. I'm happy because I didn't specifically say it to the audience, but like I said, you were adjusting the camera and stuff before we got started. And you hopped off hopped up and turned around and was fixing her. I was like, oh my goodness. The
At
last
one
time I
point, I
saw you,
couldn't do that. I couldn't move
right.
my legs. I couldn't move anything from below, from the hips below at all.
So I'm like, I'm very happy for you. Um,
Thank you.
You have an amazing story to be told. You're living it. So, it's going to come very dear coming from you. And if you can, share with me, if they have any flyers or whatever, share with me where you're going to be speaking and stuff like that. And I don't mind posting it so that,
Oh, thank
people
you.
are aware.
Thank you.
My church family as well, you
Okay.
know, would love to come out and support you. And your story is very touching, and I'm sure it's going to touch some souls and some hearts. You know what I mean? So
I
we
appreciate that.
appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you
All
for
right,
having me.
welcome. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience?
I have a social media page is underscore Nita Strong, NITASTRONG underscore. So you can follow me, and I post quotes or post my merchandise. I do have some hats and some bands and some socks coming in soon. So I'll be posting that, and I just always just be showing positivity and love, and every day through my social media, and that's it.
All right, all right, all right. Well, this is Diva Gordon from the Diva Show. Thank you for tuning in with myself and Miss DeNita Hamilton.
Thank
And
you.
look for her merch, and also look for some of her motivational speaking opportunities so that you can get an opportunity to check her out. And I'm sure that she has something to say that'll help push you along in an inspirational, motivational way. All right. Thank you so much, DeNita.
Thank you.
I
I appreciate
appreciate you. All right, this is Diva Gordon from DEU. You already know how I do. Love, peace, and hair grease.
it. All right.
All right.